This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset your
painful, tender to the touch.
may also same shoulder length, and the other. Well, hello. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy Rashidian is not here today again. But we do have the great and amazing Dr. Cole Talton. And we had a great podcast last time, so we wanted him here again for this one. And we'll probably even one or two more, and you may remember him from the episode we did with Dr. Gale as well. Dr. Gale Murray was with us, and I thought that was a fun one as well. It was, yeah. It feels like it was ages ago. So Real Health Podcast is brought to you by the Frederick Podcast Network. It can be found on listenfrederick.com along with YouTube and Spotify and iTunes and wherever else you like to find your podcasts. And our purpose is to take all the latest information in news, mainstream media, latest findings, bring it to you from a wellness perspective and help you figure out how to use that information to make your lives better, to be healthier, to feel better, to be stronger, to feel younger, and actually live longer. We definitely want you to live a long time. More than chimpanzees, for sure.
Yes.
And you'll get that if you watch the previous episode. If you didn't, go back and watch that one. We talked a lot about chimpanzees, not in a good light. So anyways, today we're going to stick to just one article because I think this affects our health more than we'd like to admit. And this was again found in New York Times. It's called... The title is How Nearly a Century of Happiness Research Led to One Big Finding. And, everybody's in the pursuit of happiness.
Absolutely. I talked this morning at my business group for quite a long time about how happiness impacts your overall health. And so I think this is a great a great addition to that. So happy
Absolutely.
To go on.
Very cool. How did they take it?
Everyone was just nodding their head yes, because it makes perfect sense that when you're happy, your body feels better. And when you're depressed, your body usually feels worse. So it's a very understandable.
Yeah. And it's a mystery of what really makes people happy.
Absolutely.
I guess we're going to find the mystery. We're going to find the answer right here today.
Absolutely. Yeah. and I just, continuing on a little bit about what you and I do and how important it is to understand the whole person and understand what's going on in their life and checking in, like doing little happiness check-ins to see, are they happy? Are they stressed?
Yeah.
And doing things like an HRV to see how stressed they are and how happy are they. So
right. Going
from there.
I tell you what, just personally, and I don't want to take too much time on this. So I grew up in Iran, and my first 5 years of life, we had everything. I mean, lap of luxury. I don't need to get into it, but there was prosperity everywhere, and we had everything. We had someone who would like bring me fresh squeezed orange juice when I woke up. I mean, like they took care of everything. I mean, I felt like a king. And then the revolution happened, and everything changed. And so I was 5 years old at the time. 1979 was the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and then it was miserable because then there was fighting in the streets and buildings set on fire, terrifying. Then there was bullets flying through the streets and the war started and the bombings and we were getting bombed on, and so all of that terrifying. But I remember I was happy the whole time. So when it comes to happiness, you can live, and when they talk about the happiest countries, apparently Nigeria
really
is the happiest country in the world.
Wow. Come to think of it, I've had several friends that were from Nigeria or were immigrants of Nigeria. They're all pretty happy people. So that makes a lot of sense. Even like in MMA, when we're punching each other in the face, you're just smiling the whole time. So.
Wow.
I think that might be true.
Which country punches harder?
Oh, in my experience, I fought a guy from Russia. His name was Polak, and he beat me up pretty good. So I think Russia might be up there. Yeah.
That's interesting because this woman is from Russia.
Oh, no.
So she said, growing up in Maryland, Sonia Lubomirsky, I apologize if I didn't say it correctly. I think it's Lubomirsky, could see that her mother was unhappy. When Sonia was 9, her parents moved the family from Moscow, where her mother taught literature at a high school, to the United States, hoping to offer their children more opportunities. In their new country, Sonia's mother could no longer teach, so she cleaned houses to help the family get by. She missed her old career. She longed for her home country. She was frequently teary. She was unhappy on a Tolstoyan scale. Sonia understood her nostalgia and frustration, which were compounded by a miserable marriage, but she still wondered, were Russians just less happy than Americans? Was her mother destined to be unhappy anywhere, or was this a result of life circumstances? What, if anything, might make someone like her mother happier, if not wholly content? You know, this sounds a lot like my life, because I moved to the United States when I was 11, and that's when the unhappiness started. That's, I mean, you imagine we had nothing. The airlines lost one of my suitcases.
Wow.
Rule of thumb: if you're immigrating to another country, don't put your pants in one suitcase and your shirts in the other suitcase, because I had no pants.
Jeez.
They lost the suitcase with the pants, so only shirts. And that doesn't work well in the U.S. or in Iran or any other country. So, but you feel so alone, because no one looks like you. No one talks like you, and you can't understand what they're saying. Even though there's kind people everywhere, Americans were really kind, especially in California. They were all really nice, but I was intimidated and frightened all day, every day. And thanks to Sesame Street, I learned English and was able to get by and found happiness again. But you know, she talks about how this woman went from being a teacher of literature in high school to cleaning homes. My mother and I used to knock on doors and ask people if we could clean their homes. And some people would open the door and say, yeah, come clean. So my mother and I would clean homes and make some money on weekends. And then she nannied during the week. Anyways, it says in 85, Lubomirsky left for college at Harvard. Smart girl. Although, you know, Harvard has a really bad reputation nowadays.
At the moment, yes.
So, yeah, but back in 85, I guess they were best of the best. Her advisor reminded her years later she frequently brought up the topic of happiness, even though his expertise was in social psychology of the stock market. At the time, the study of happiness was far from the wellness mega field it has become today. In the 60s, a researcher making a rare foray into the subject noted that very little progress on the theory of happiness had been made since Aristotle weighed in 2 millenniums earlier. That paper concluded that youth and modest life aspirations were key components of happiness. Findings later called into question. So, you know, Tony Robbins, you know what he says happiness is?
What's that?
He says happiness is progress. So if you're progressing towards an ideal outcome, you're going to be happy. If you're regressing or stuck, you're not going to be happy. That's Tony Robbins. I don't know if he did the kind of research we're going to talk about today.
What's interesting in what you just said is that Aristotle concluded that youth and modest life aspirations were key components. And so to me, that says as you get older, you would become more unhappy. So would you agree with that?
That's what he's saying. Yeah. He's saying as you get older, because you don't have the youth you had, which and maybe your aspirations increase. You know, if you're a youth and all you want is, hey, I just want a family. I just want to find a beautiful, significant other to spend my life with, and just have a nice, happy life. It may be easier to find than if you want to change the world.
Yeah, I mean, kids aren't paying taxes, so they don't really have too much to be unhappy about. But then as you get older, you start to understand the system a little more. So,
speaking of taxes, I think our taxes should start going down. Apparently, the U.S. revenue from tariffs is double in the month of May. So we're in June now, but in the month of May, it was double what it had been historically.
Wow.
It was 2% of the gross. Now it's 4% of the gross. So maybe our taxes will go down by 2%.
Maybe.
And happiness will go up by 2%.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. When taxes increase, does happiness decrease?
That's right. You've heard of the Laffer curve? Well, anyways, that's different.
All right.
It's completely economic, and this is not an economic podcast. So let's go back to this. Many scientists at the time believed that happiness was essentially random. It was not something to cultivate like a garden or to reach for by setting and achieving meaningful goals. It was something that happened to people by virtue of their genes, their circumstances, or both. It may be that trying to be happier is as futile as trying to be taller, and therefore is counterproductive. So that was a study in 1996. When Lubomirsky arrived at graduate school for social psychology at Stanford, so this woman goes from Harvard to Stanford for grad school in 1989. Academic research on happiness was only beginning to gain legitimacy. On her first day of graduate school at Stanford in 89, she resolved to make happiness her focus. Lubomirsky began with the basic question of why some people are happier than others. A few years earlier, a survey of the existing research touched on the kinds of behaviors that happy people seemed inclined to engage in, like religious observance, for example, or socializing and exercising. Well, those are some of my favorite things, is exercising. I don't know if I socialize enough, but you and I, we stayed late and just talked
Yeah.
yesterday.
Mhm.
That's socializing. I mean,
Absolutely.
Obviously our counterparts who are at home waiting for us probably may not consider that happiness, but maybe they won't watch the show. Two doctors recruited a group of 268 Harvard graduates from. So this is a study that was like a 75-year study. So I'm kind of skipping ahead because I don't want to bombard you with too much detail on this stuff, because they talk about Zen Buddhist priests and so on, and meditation and things like that. But so these two doctors took 268 Harvard undergraduates from the class of 1939 through 1944. Among them was John F. Kennedy and the future Washington Post editor Ben Bradlee. The college students were studied from every conceivable angle. They spoke for more than 20 hours each to psychiatrists. Their family histories were explored. Their parents were interviewed about their childhood. And they were given a barrage of psychological tests. They had their insulin tolerance assessed, along with their respiratory function and how their bodies responded when they were asked to run on a treadmill to the point of exhaustion. They were measured from head to toe in a pseudoscientific pursuit of a connection seemed to protect them from mood dampening. Oh, sorry, did I skip? Sorry, connection between body shape and personality. Once they left college, a majority of the men continued to. So they were mostly white men, which kind of doesn't help with diversity. Continued to submit to regular medical exams and filled out lengthy questionnaires that asked them about their lives and their state of mind. Roughly once a decade, a researcher traveled to interview them in person. So we're talking about a really long study. Many of the study participants served in World War II. They went on to work in fields like marketing, bricklaying, banking, real estate development, and furniture moving. What a list. In 2001, when the men were in their late 70s and early 80s, Valent published some of his most significant findings. So the original researchers changed hands like 4 times. So these were the findings in 2001. He found that for both cohorts, one of the best predictors of the men's overall well-being in their old age was how happily married they were at age 50. So that's good because I'm 50 right now.
I was going to say.
And you're going to be happily married on, well, I won't say what day.
Okay.
But in a year. One man said, wish I had spent more time with my wife. She died just as I began to taper down with work. One 80-year-old woman interviewed said she wished she had spent less time getting upset about silly things and instead focused more time with my children, husband, mother, and father. So what's the saying? Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Yes. And happy wife, happy life.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's why you learn 2 words: yes, dear, and you're right.
Yes.
I'm like, well, unfortunately, so fortunately or unfortunately, women are usually right. I mean,
They are.
it
I was talking to Miss Terry, one of our employees, about that. I don't know how, but Megan's always right. Because I'm saying, oh, no, you're wrong about this. I go back like a week later. I'm like, you know what? She was right.
I think you're gonna do fine in your marriage.
Yep.
More recent studies that found that marriage alone, it wasn't enough. How happy the marriage was mattered. So it has to be a happy marriage, not just marriage. For those in happy marriages, socializing with others in their circle contributed to their happiness. If they were in pain or ill health, however, it was only spending time with their spouse that seemed to protect them from the mood dampening effect of physical suffering. Other research he conducted found that the people who scored highest on measures of attachment to their spouses were also the ones who reported the highest levels of happiness. So I work with my wife. She sits in your seat, usually. But, we do the podcast together. We run the offices together. We raise our kids together. So I think today a lot of married couples don't work together. I think in the old days they did spend more time together.
Absolutely.
Especially
tending the farm and animals
Right.
and things of that nature. And yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that dynamic, I'm sure that has both positives and negatives. Like,
Yeah.
I love working with you, but I don't know if I want to go home with you every night. So
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, but and some people always ask us, how do you work together and not kill each other?
Yeah, and separate work from home too.
Right.
I'm sure that's tough.
Well, that one's an easy one, because we decided our first couple years working together and being married, they were tough because we kept trying to separate work and personal, business personal, and then we gave up. We said, listen, it's life. We're doing life together. It's all life. Let's not separate. If we need to bring business home, we're going to bring it home. If we need to bring home to work, we're going to bring. That's why you see my oldest coming into the office and working with us. We're like, let's mix it up. I mean, it's too stressful to try to separate. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody, but it really worked for us. Instantly, all the tension was gone, because there were times where I was at home and there was something I want to talk about regarding the office. And I couldn't bring it up because she'd be like, well, I don't want to talk about work right now. And she has the right to do that, but then I would hold on to it, and then I couldn't be present because I kept thinking about something else. But now we're like, hey, can we chat about work for a second? Sure. Okay, discuss it. Done. All right. Well, what are we gonna do for the weekend, or where should we go for dinner? It all works out. The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Period.
And if I recall, your podcast about the blue zones and things, and one of the big things that keeps people alive the longest, like we talked about previously, was those relationships. So, talking about my great grandparents before, they had a life partner for 80 years of their life.
Wow.
And so,
Now, see, I bet they didn't fight about who left the cap off the toothpaste.
yeah, that's interesting. So that's one of the things that, Megan and I, my fiance, we talk about all the time, like how important is putting down the toilet lid, or how important is folding the laundry as
Right.
soon as it's done. And, one of the big things you have to do is find out why it matters to them. And if you understand that, then it's so much easier just to do it because it's important. So,
Yeah.
And there are some things that aren't important. And
Right.
sometimes you have to work that out too.
Well, see, I believe marriage was created by God. My beliefs align with what the Bible teaches. So if God invented, created marriage, then there's a higher purpose to marriage. And so things that go against that purpose are going to derail us from that. So what do I mean? I mean, that am I in this marriage to make me happy? Am I in this marriage to make her happy? Well, because they cause me to do two different things. Now, I feel like God says that when you marry, you devote yourself to taking care of another person, meeting their needs, being there for them. every time you want to change that person to meet you and your needs, you're taking that gift back from God. You're trying to pull it back away. If you're giving it as a gift, you give it wholeheartedly. And if you think marriage is 50-50, that's not going to work. It has to be 100-100. You give 100% and she'll give 100%. Not you give 50 and she gives 50, because that's when people go, why should I be loving because she's not being loving? Well, she's not always going to be loving to you. You know, but you could be loving in spite of that, and that'll change, and marriages go through seasons and trials and tribulations, just like everything else. You know, it's funny, you're always going to love them, but you're not always going to like them.
That is true.
But
That is true.
but that means you have, and if you look at love as a verb, even when you don't like them, you should still love them.
Absolutely.
And be loving. So anyways, it's about being selfless. So maybe we should add that to the formula for happiness. It says the clearest message. We read that one. Strong long-term relationships with spouses, family, and friends built on deep trust, not achievement, not fortune or fame, were what predicted well-being, which is why probably Nigeria is happy, because I don't know how many of them are interested in fame and fortune.
Yeah, that's an interesting component, because I remember in school learning that in order to have a happy, quote unquote, household income, the average at the time in 2015 was around 70,000. And out of curiosity, I looked it up the other day, and the average income for quote unquote happiness in a household is around 100,000 now. And so, how much does your own financial security play into the stress on your life and your own terminal happiness? And I think we hear it all the time that one of the major factors that causes divorces is financial problems
That's
too.
for sure. Absolutely. And it is a big problem, big source. That's why I personally believe that once you're married, you shouldn't have separate bank accounts, because then it becomes mine and yours. Once you join together, two become one. That's what the Bible says. So you should be one. Everything should be one. All decisions are made by one. You know, and it makes things simpler. But that's rare. And
It is.
most married couples have separate bank accounts because they have separate incomes. That's another plus with Brandy and I. Most of our income is pretty much combined. But even if she does some real estate and she sells a home, or or does some real estate and there's income, but that goes into the same pot. So we're all contributing to the same thing. But financially, for sure. Now here's something. I met a guy who was a fund manager who was a financial planner for high net worth individuals. He said you have to be worth minimum of $100 million for me to take you on as a client.
Wow.
And he said he had about 104 clients. He said he can't handle any more than that. So 104 clients, each worth over 100 million, some worth probably $500 million or even more. And he said out of 104 clients, I can count on one hand how many of them are happy.
Wow.
And I would think, well, if $100,000 makes you happy, 100 million should make you really happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he literally said most of them rarely are happy.
Yeah, it brings up a good point that Jocko Willink brings up, who's a Navy SEAL commander who also does podcasts and things, is he defines happiness as freedom, but you can't have freedom without discipline. So discipline equals that freedom. So being disciplined with whatever money that you do have is going to allow you financial freedom. And then it doesn't matter if you make 100,000 or 1,000,000. It's about your discipline with whatever finances that you have. So
Absolutely.
that's a big point that I take away. When it comes to time management too, if you're disciplined with your time management, you'll have more time to be free.
Right.
So,
and where are you putting your security? If you think money makes you more safe and secure, then the minute something happens to it, you lose that.
yeah, if the economy, stock market crashes again.
Yeah. Where's your faith? Ultimately, you have faith in a higher power, believing that you're cared for, loved, and you're valuable. Then your worth is outside of how much you make or what you possess.
Absolutely.
Now it's very different. So this guy found that happy people spend less time alone every day than unhappy people. A large study published in 2008 found that those who were more socially engaged, attending church, belonging to organizations, were consistently happier, as were those with large social networks. So belonging to something is powerful. It was hard to know, for example, though. So they talked about how does one cause the other. He said they didn't know if happy marriages made for happier people at the end of their lives, or if happy people were simply more inclined to have happy marriages. And I don't think they ever answered that question.
I don't know. Yeah.
Socially engaged pursuits predict increases in life satisfaction, but then unhappy people probably don't pursue social engagements. So, some people say happiness is a choice. You've heard the phrase, I'm not singing because I'm happy because I sing.
Interesting.
Because you think about it, Tony Robbins does a lot of work with this. He goes, I want you to slouch, I want you to look down at the floor, I want you to frown, and I want you to take shallow fast breaths. How do you feel? Like, well, I feel unhappy. Now put your shoulders back, look up, put a big smile on your face, take nice deep breaths, and you don't feel as unhappy. So you can let your mood dictate your posture. You can let your posture dictate your mood. I'd much rather, because posture I can control much better.
Absolutely.
And listen, I haven't figured it all out, but these people don't have it figured out either. So I don't think we need to dive any deeper into. Was there anything else in the article that you thought we should mention?
I mean, other than the simple facts that we know, where it talks about, better nutrition is going to lead to, better results with happiness, but also exercise. And I think that's something that you've covered probably a million times, is just the endorphin boost that you get just from working out, and how that's naturally going to make you happier.
Did you see my mug? It says, I will look for you, I will find you, and I will make you do your exercises.
That is very true.
So this seems like a little bit of a summary. It says, after all these years, it hit me. This is, what was her name? Lubomirsky. It hit me. The reason that all of these interventions are working is because they make people feel more connected to others. So when I write a gratitude letter to my mom, it makes me feel more connected to my mom. When I do an act of kindness, it makes me feel more connected to the person I'm helping, or just humanity as a whole. Yes, you could go running, and that would make you happier. And meditation doesn't necessarily have to be about other people. But I would say that 95% of things that are effective in making people happy, and that have been shown to be true through happiness interventions, are because they make people feel more connected to other people.
Absolutely.
Yet again, it goes to show it's good to go see a chiropractor, because you do build a bond with your chiropractor. It used to be your family physician had a bond with you, because they knew you really well. Now they're part of larger practices. Most people don't even know which doctor they're going to see when they go to their primary care physician. And but the chiropractor, there's this connection, because you see them more often initially. You spend you have long-term relationships with them. You get to know their family and friends. I mean, how many people come in here that actually have other family members under care as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the big connection a lot of time comes from, how many people have had their medical doctors even touch them, whether it be shake their hand or give them a hug.
Right.
And so I don't know if I've ever hugged my family practitioner, but I get hugs all the time as a chiropractor. And I think that there's more comfortable because we practice with our hands. So
it's true. It's very true. One interesting thing it said in here about happiness was, it said for every 10 minutes of extra commuting time, the likelihood of having symptoms of depression increased by 0.5%. How long is your commute to work?
15 minutes.
Okay, so you have 0.75% increased chance of depression. Mine's like 12 minutes. I live 12 minutes from each office.
Wow, that's cool.
And when the third office opens, I'll be 12 minutes from that too.
Nice.
Isn't that funny? It's all equidistance. So anyways, but if you have a long commute, be careful not to let that lead to depression. Other than that, guys, listen, the truth is, it's not just your relationship with the people closest to you. It's your relationship to yourself that matters. Are you speaking kindly to yourself? Do you respect yourself? Do you see the value in yourself? And then it's your relationship with your higher power, with God, with your creator. That's powerful too. And once you understand that relationship, and then you have a healthy relationship with yourself and a healthy relationship with your significant other, you pursue those, you understand that's what's going to really make you happy, not the other stuff we put worth and value in, I think life gets better.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So we're going to chat about some other fun stuff next time. We mentioned this earlier. We found out that iodine is pretty darn important. So please tune in a few days when we post that one up. And until then, be blessed.
This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.